the first step when we're going to be putting our card together is to cut out that window. And the easiest way to make sure that that window is in the same spot for both layers, plus we get an even mat around our window, is to just tape it down temporarily in the center. Now, if you're wanting to use these pieces that you cut out for other projects, make sure it's temporary adhesive. If you don't care about it, then you can use permanent adhesive. And now we're going to put our die where we want it to go. I'm leaving a wider edge at the bottom here so that I can put my sentiment down there. I'm just going to get a little bit of die tape and hold it in place. And that way I can make sure that it's not going to move around when I'm putting it through my die cutting machine. I'm going to flip that up. I always die cut with the blade side up, and the reason is when I first got my machine, that's how the instructions said to do it. And one time I was teaching a class and it was, my die was used the opposite way, and I figured I'd just let it go, and by the end of the class my die was curved because all the pressure comes from the top, and by having this part of the die down, I never have a curve in my die. So if you're ever having an issue with curved dies after you're using them, try flipping them the other way. And in order to do that, often you do have to tape them in place, but I'd rather get more use out of my dies than have them start to curve. So those pieces of die tape I will reuse over and over again. My die can come out of there. And this shape, this rectangle shape, is quite simple, so you can probably cut both the mat and your card piece at the same time. This can be tucked to the side to be used for a future project. Now, before we put anything together, I'm going to stamp and emboss my sentiment. That way it ties into the image piece on the card. I'm just going to use my magnets to hold that in place. And place my sentiment exactly where you want. Make sure your stamps are clean when you're doing this so you're not accidentally putting down ink on there while you're trying to place it. Ink your stamp. And this embossing ink tends to be shiny on cardstock, so you can see exactly where it has gone to see if you've gotten a clear impression. I'll grab a piece of paper. If you get something like that, you can use a brush to brush it off, or if it's far enough away from your sentiment, you can use your fingers like I just did. But you do want to take it off before you melt it. If you melt it first, that part is going to melt to your paper and you're never going to get it off. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tape on the inside of my frame here. I'm just using a nice double-sided tape, and I am going to go around all four edges to make sure it has a good seal. Take the backing off of that tape. And then center our frame with our stamped image. There we go, press it down. And now we can cut the excess off. And it doesn't need to be cut pretty. All of this is going to be behind the blue mat or between the blue mat and the card. So you just want to make sure that it's not going past the edge of your blue. All right, and now let's put some adhesive on our blue piece here to get this onto the front of the card. Now this double-sided tape sticks super, super well. And if it is stuck to your surface, the only way to get it off is using undo or basically ripping things off. So in order to get it on a little bit easier and not have to worry about trying to get it off of the whole thing, I'm just taking the ends of my tape, folding them over so they're past the blue part. Oops. Just put that one back. And now I'm going to match my window with my window on my card base. Once it's all matched, I can put it down, and now I can take that adhesive off just by pulling the tail. And there we go, now it's perfect. If you were to take that adhesive, the backing off and try to get it all down, chances are something would stick that you didn't want to stick, and you wouldn't be able to get it up. So I've already got my butterfly stamped and cut out. This is the one from the piece, the extra piece that we did with the opal alcohol ink, so it's got a little bit of shimmer to it. My sample card, I did one that was pinky purple. This one I did that one that was got the greens to it, just so you see the difference. Neither one is right or wrong. It's all personal preference. And the last step, I'm just going to put a little bit of stickles around the edges again, just to add a little bit of shimmer. And that butterfly is still moving because that adhesive on my card is not dry yet, but once it's dry, it won't move. There we go. We'll let that dry completely. But there you go. That's how you do alcohol inks on acetate.